Podcast by Friday, episode 47.
And on today's show, we are going to talk about the power of network groups, how to network at meetup groups that are close by you, as well as those that might be far away. And here is a sneak preview of some of what's coming up on this show.
Yep, it's like the lottery. You got to be in it to win it. If you're not there to meet people and to talk and to share and have a good time, what's the point of getting up from your chair? You wanted to go and meet people. You wanted to network and grow your influence and grow your horizons with other people. Get out there, talk to somebody.
Yes, talk to somebody, and they'll talk back at you. And you'll see more about what we unpacked in this show about what are some other things you can do while at these meetup meetings.
Podcast by Friday with Bill Griggs and Kingsley Grant. We help people to create their minimal viable podcast by taking bold action to beat procrastination and to get their voices heard.
I'm Kingsley Grant.
And I'm Bill Griggs.
And you're listening to
Podcast by Friday.
As was stated earlier, we are going to be covering quite a variety of ways you could have a meetup serve you. And what are some things you can get from going to a meetup? But also, what are some things you can do going to a meetup? So this is going to be a jam-packed episode. You want to listen carefully and take some notes, and hopefully we'll hear from you as to what your plans will be after hearing this episode today. So let's dive into today's show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to an episode of Podcast by Friday. I am Bill Griggs, and I'm here with my main man, Kingsley Grant. How are you doing today, Kingsley?
Hey, Bill, I am doing if I was to do any better, as someone have said, I don't know if I could contain myself or what I would do with myself today. I'm really excited, man. I was speaking to someone this morning, and the person said, I asked the same question. The person said, man, Kingsley, you know what? I am breathing. I am up. I'm about. And I said to him, you know what? As long as I'm in an upright position and not in a horizontal position 6 feet below, I'm good.
I love it. Every day above room temperature is a good day, man.
So I'm doing great, man. And it's great just being here to sit across from you, even though virtually, and once again record for our great and awesome audience another podcast episode.
Yeah, we've been talking a lot in the last few episodes about how we find and meet new people, and this has really been a topic that is very important to us, because as podcasters, you're generally just sitting in a room by yourself somewhere talking about what it is that you are interested in. And there's very little interaction going on in the real physical world with other people. So, I always talk about how much I enjoy getting together with you to create each one of these episodes, but it would be so much cooler in person.
Yeah. And I think it's, again, it seemed like this topic we've been on have allowed me to be more, I guess, sensitive to conversations I have outside, because I was speaking to this gentleman who is self-employed, work from home. He is a motorcycle enthusiast, and he really repairs and does a great job with those Harleys. That's what his specialty is. And he said to me, Kingsley, I find myself kind of becoming almost like antsy and kind of bored with what it is I'm most passionate about, and that's to work on a motorcycle. And he said, you know why? Because I don't get out much anymore. I'm just in working on that so much that it's now beginning, the thing that he loves to do is becoming almost like, oh man, do I have to do this again? And I say, it's not that he's not still passionate about it. And I find that in podcasting, for us, as creators, we can find ourselves becoming so much in and doing what we love, that at some point the very same thing become like, oh man, do I have to do this again? So I really love these episodes because it talks about the idea of how to break that up and to not let that become that happen to you.
Mm-hmm. Probably the best way to combat this, if this were just a business type of activity where you were doing home-based business or something, well, there's ways around that. A lot of people will go to what's called a co-working space, and they will sit just to be in another room with other people while they're working. Well, that really doesn't work for a podcast, because for a podcast you need quiet when you're recording, but you still want to interact and meet people. And one good way that I've found to do that is through meetups, which if you've never heard of a meetup, it's something that may be of interest to you.
And I also want to make sure that if you have not listened to episode 46, we also talked about a live event as another place you can do the very same thing. But that is one episode you want to make sure you go back and listen to. But today we want to talk about another one like that. And then Bill, you introduced that to our audience, and that is networking at a meetup group. So here's a question though. A person may not even have never even heard of a meetup. So what constitutes a meetup group?
Well, Kingsley, meetup groups are basically something that was established online, maybe in person originally. I really don't know what the origin of it is, but there is a website called Meetup.com where you can go and type in your area of interest and a radius around you of how far you're willing to travel, and you'll meet like-minded people. So it's an online organizing tool used to schedule meetings and events with like-minded people.
And that is so cool to realize you have this opportunity, because sometimes it's so hard to find. And I love the fact that Meetup provides you with that one central place you can go, like a hub, and say, hey, you know what? Is there any podcasters in my area? And, you go there and say, yeah, there's a podcast meetup happening 5 miles from you or 2 miles from you or next door to you. And you didn't realize this. I love this concept. So the question I find then is what we want to answer is, why would you want to look into something like a meetup or Meetup.com? And is this an idea where why would you want to go on a dating website? Because you want to find somebody who you're interested in, right? So
I am not on any dating websites. My wife wouldn't appreciate it.
Exactly. We want to make sure that. But I think it's just a point of reference, and people hear a lot about that. So think about a meetup group as a place to go and meet people face to face, right? Who have similar interests. Like we mentioned earlier, it's a better thing if you could really meet with people and do things you love together. So consider or think of it as that, a place you can go and put a name to a face and put a voice to a face, and just to sit across from someone and look into their eyes and hear their voice and hear them in live. So that's one of the first things that comes to my mind, is to have a face-to-face conversation.
Yeah, you always feel like you're the only one in the world who's doing something, interested in something. You say, I wish there were other people. And a meetup can help you meet people face-to-face who have similar interests to you. So it's really kind of cool. And you can rally around your cause together. Whatever it is. Maybe your thing is to bring the Canada Goose back to Central New York. So I'm not a fan, because we've got plenty. But maybe that was your thing, and so you form a meetup of Canada Goose lovers or whatever. And that sounds just weird, wrong. Supporters, enthusiasts. There we go. Yeah, that's better. Canada Goose enthusiast, and you have your own meetup out there.
I think one of the things that comes to my mind, even that, would you well, we look at podcast movement, and the founders of that wanted to have a cause, and that is to say, how can we get podcasters together and promote what we know is an incredible tool, an incredible medium to get your message out. And I believe podcast movement is something like that. It's like a cause. It's given us to rally around, which, and by the way, if you're listening and you're going to be in podcast movement this year in 2018 in Philly, make sure you look us up. We're going to be there and we want to hear from you. So, hey, that could be a way for us, which is one of those things we're going to talk about later on. Another reason why we have a meetup groups, but also to build membership. Because I find when I go to a meetup group and I meet people, they, in a sense, gives me permission to continue a relationship with them. Why couldn't I create a relationship into a membership format? Because they might be interested in learning some things from me and an ongoing relationship. And so I could find it as a place to go and get new members into my group that I'm forming.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because, one of the meetup groups that I've gone to in the past used the meetup online infrastructure to build the membership for their program. And their program was centered around building new skills, learning how to do things, which, kind of ties into our next topic as well. So this meetup was centered around the maker movement and the maker community, folks who wanted to know how things were made and how to do it themselves. And so they used Meetup.com to organize and grow the membership for their maker space, a place where you could go and make things together with other people and maybe learn or take a class from them. And so you could learn a new skill all through this meetup group. So it served two purposes.
Yeah, and I find the new skill you mentioned, Bill, is also a new idea. So I think one of those things as well, where people talk about trends and new technology, because there's a meetup group for a ton of things, but I love ones that fit into the space I'm in. So, for example, I'm going to go to meetup groups that are supporting and helping me to get new ideas on how I can podcast better and how I can use social media and marketing better. So it allows me then to become updated on these things that helps to move my business ahead and further down, where I want to go. New technology. I may be curious about something and someone there at a meetup group is sharing about new technology and may introduce me. And not only that, because I'm there with them face to face, they're more apt to want to show me and demonstrate. And I'm a visual learner, so that helps me a great deal.
Yeah, and sometimes, the advantage of meeting someone in person who's into what it is that you're into is during the course of that conversation, you sometimes find out references to someone else that is into it that you should meet. Oh, you should meet John. Mm-hmm. He's really into this. He makes those knife handles just like you do. Boom. Suddenly you've got, another level of networking going on. And that's the really cool part about the meetup, being able to leverage it to meet other people instead, to build stronger relationships.
Mm-hmm. And, it's I find that when you say to someone that, hey, you know what, Bill and I met at this meetup and Bill told me about you and said, man, you've got to meet this guy. You got to meet this person. That carries more weight than if I just try to go up and then have some kind of a contact point. And I think it's a whole, level of separation. So we can get closer to people because of a meetup group that we may have wanted to meet somebody, and that, boom, it happens. So meeting your audience is another exciting part about this, because even when we go to podcast movement, for example, this year, 2018, we could really say, hey, if you're going to be in Philly at the podcast movement and you listen to my podcast in any way or follow me or whatever it is, let's connect and meet in the lobby at a certain day or a certain time. It's the coolest thing to meet people face to face at an event that know only about you by what they read through your platform or what they hear through your podcast. And now they're saying, man, you're the guy. Oh, you're the guy. I remember we both have met Pat Flynn from, Smart Passive Income. And I first was introduced to him. And when I knew about him was, of course, it's podcast. And I hear this guy's voice, I see his picture, but I've never had a chance to see him in person. Is he tall? Is he skinny? Is he fat? Is he, I did none of those things. But when I met him, I said, well, that's Pat, because he had this bag on his back that says, I'm Pat, so you can know exactly who he is. And I hear him, I'm in his audience, and he thrived on that. He loved that. And he also encouraged you to come up and say hi. So it was a great experience to not only me being in his audience and meet him, but imagine someone in your audience meeting you and thanking you in person for how you have changed your lives or impacted them. So it's a great way to Meetup groups provide that for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was an example of that going on the last conference that we went to, sitting out in the lobby, and I noticed a bunch of guys huddled around a laptop, just out in the main hotel lobby, and just everybody's paying attention to this one guy, and the curious investigator sat me says, "Wonder what that's all about." So I moseyed over and I introduced myself, which is a major thing for me because I'm an introvert. Although you might not have guessed that, but I walk, "Hey, what are you guys talking about?" It turns out it was folks from the Amazing Seller group, which is a group about Amazon affiliate income. Yeah. And all of these guys sitting around the laptop were discussing how they were going to build their business and crush it, and they're most of those guys are making six-figure incomes now just through doing Amazon stuff. Kind of interesting.
Wow. That's so cool.
Yeah, they did that through a meetup, and they had announced that prior to the event. So, yeah. So the other cool thing about the having the online service, meetup about is you can find out about events that are going to happen near where you're at, which is always a big thing because, you always find out about something cool that was going on after it happened, and if you'd had one place to go and look to know about these events, you could probably attend more of them.
And that really is sometimes where people have just like, I forget it because it's too far. I can't, I think people say, I can't find anything going on. I mean, if you live in a big city, you can always have events going on. And sometimes it may be there in your backyard. And I love the fact that you just mentioned that, Bill, because you'd be surprised to see how many things. Here's one thing I want to challenge you as you're listening. Just type in Meetup.com and see what happens. But we'll do more about that at the end of this episode. So,
No, let's do it.
Let's do it? Okay.
I just typed into Syracuse, okay. Meetup.com, just to see what they're showing for Friday, May 18th, or for this weekend. These are things. There's a Syracuse co-work spring cleaning, so if you want to go help them clean out their office space, you can do that. There's a Coleman's block party with mere mortals. That is
mere mortals.
Yeah, that's a popular group. That is going to be playing there. You wouldn't have known that Mere Mortals was playing in Syracuse this weekend. There's a Syracuse Society of Geeks. They're going to be doing Dungeons and Dragons. There's a tabletop gaming club. There's another. Same people, just another day of Dungeons and Dragons. Fruit and Flower card class. There's an energy up thing. There's another. I don't know what SSOG game night at Tusk is, but they're going to be having that. Syracuse Business Networking Entrepreneurs Weekly Meetup. Motivated Marketers, Let's Get Acquainted meeting. Kung Fu training. All kinds of things. Toastmasters, free co-working, knitting clubs. That stuff is on there. So, I challenge you. Go and check out Meetup in your area and see what's going on. What's going on in Miami?
It's so funny. I'm glad you mentioned that because I said, let's kind of see what happened because Miami is a bigger city, a very, happening city. And I just type in, meetings, all meetings within 5 miles, right? Just 5 miles. And they have, Puff Dragon Boat Racing this weekend. They have a tech beach event this weekend. The meditation meetup is happening. Co-ed soccer is happening. The South Florida FB Amazon sellers is having a meeting this weekend, right? Miami machine learning meetup. That was so. I mean, you really and on and on and on that you could just really be like, wow, all this is happening. Yes, Nerd Night Miami. I mean, you ask, it's all there. So I think the point is made that you can find it in your neighborhood, and you might be surprised to see what you can find. And I think we just demonstrated that just now. So you're without excuse.
Yep. So just to drive the point home, where do we find meetup groups?
And I think we just mentioned, of course, Meetup.com is one of the places to go. The preferred one right now. We mentioned that today. We're talking about that, and that comes to mind right away. But there's other places too, right?
Yeah, like Eventbrite.com. That's another source. They're more focused around actually selling you a ticket to go someplace than
right. They do have that, but they do have free events that they also post as well because they allow you to post that, and so you can find as events that are happening. As a matter of fact, I get a notification in my email from Eventbrite of what's happening in my city because I signed up for that close to me, and I select what events I wanted to know about. So they notify me that this event is happening, and so if I wanted to go, hey, that's right there in my email box.
Because Eventbrite has a method to collect money, for an event. A lot of times, meetups will use Eventbrite to collect money if there is a fee involved with their meetings. So let's say somebody's doing a beer night out, and there's a fee for the beer. Well, they can get paid for get that paid in advance, for the admission or the cover charge or whatever you want to call it through Eventbrite.
Yeah.
So it's very nice synergy going on there between Eventbrite and Meetup.com.
And another one is Facebook.com, which I have also done in the past, and putting together an event on there. And people who are following me are notified, hey, an event is close by, it's happening this weekend, and I'm the person who's hosting that or is is putting together. So you're already have people on Facebook, so you could also put the event on Facebook.com and just see how many people will be notified of that, because that's another way to get your event, if you're planning one, out. But also you can find event there as well. If you want to do a search, you can see events that's happening around you as well.
The one downside that I sometimes find about Meetup is missing the meetings. And sometimes, the meetings will only come up once every couple of months or 2 or 3 times a year. And if I don't have a decent way of knowing when an upcoming event is going on, then, I can miss out. Have you run into this, Kingsley, or do you have a solution maybe that?
Yeah. Bill, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, and I really like, as a matter of fact, this one guy I know, he always do Facebook meetings and networking and advertising, Facebook ads. But the days he do it is most times I just can't go because I have a conflict of interest. But the fact is, I have the event tagged so I can get notified of that. So my email, when I open it up, is there, and I'm thinking, oh man, it's a great topic. I wish I could go. But the fact is, I'm notified, and that is what you can do: is set the notification to be reminded of an event that you are interested in. So you don't get everything; it's just what you're interested in, and you don't have to worry about missing that. So I'm glad you brought that up. It's one way to keep abreast of what's happening in your community. Okay.
So we've discussed what a meetup is, and we've talked why we like using the meetup groups, to meet other people, to rally around our cause, to build memberships, and to learn new skills, and many, many other things. And now we know where to find the meetups and everything. But what do we do once we get to the meetup? I mean, how do we network at a meetup group?
Before Bill gives us his answer to the question I've just asked, we want to take a brief sponsor break to say that
this is the section of our show where we would normally pause for a word from our sponsor. Now, if you would like to be that sponsor of the Podcast by Friday show, and you have a product or service that you feel would be of benefit to new entrepreneurs starting their new podcast, and contact us at podcast@podcastbyfriday.com, and we'll see if you'd be a good fit.
Bill had asked a question, how do we network? And I'm going to begin by giving the answer to that question, and then he'll pick up again on elaboration of that. Here we go. I think you're kind of hinting at when you say how, because you're an introvert, it's for you to have gone to that group and introduce yourself and see what they're doing was kind of a, gutsy move on your part, right? But you were intentional. And I think that's what happens is even going to, again, podcast movement this coming in August of 2018, I'm going to be intentional to meet some people that I have in mind. I have a list of people I want to make sure I meet at that event. So intentionality is one thing, is a must if you're going to expand and let these meetup work for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it really helps when you've got people that you want to meet because they know something that you want to learn, or they have experience with something, or they're sharing something. But you don't want to just be one way. You don't want to be a taker all the time. You also have to consider giving. You need to provide value to the people that you're with to help set yourself apart, because all take and no give is really doesn't make you interesting. You have valuable knowledge that you can share and about your passion topic, and you should do that. You should provide value.
And I think that is a very, very good advice. And because you want to be known, and when you leave that event, people will say, "Man, you know what? This guy is I want to remember him. He just brought such great value and just knocked our socks off." And that's why I think which leads me into the fact that you want to be actively involved, be a participator at these events. That's not a spectator that sits on the sideline, because meetup groups, networking group is not a spectator sport. It is one that you want to get involved, get in the game, because you're going to be glad you did. Because no one can tell you about how the experience of an event because you were on the side, you never felt it, you never get hand dirty. I mean, you got to be in it. So I think that taking part in what's happening is critical to your success of attending a meetup group.
Yep, it's like the lottery. You got to be in it to win it. If you're not there to meet people and to talk and to share and have a good time, what's the point of getting up from your chair? You wanted to go and meet people. You wanted to network and grow your influence and grow your horizons with other people. Get out there, talk to somebody. So I strongly encourage you to go back and listen to episode 46 that we just released, networking at live events, where we cover a number of these things and what we do when we're at the events and how we help grow our reach through networking.
Yeah, and I can't emphasize enough. I can't, if I was to list the people, or the amount of people that I become friends with or have a relationship with, or I can get as a guest on my podcast pretty easy. And it came because I was intentional. I participated. I brought value. I made myself known. and it came because of a networking or a meetup group. So I cannot strongly urge you, as we talk about what a meetup group is, why we do it, where to find meetup groups, how to, and I love the how to part to network at a meetup group. I cannot emphasize strongly enough that let this be something, a medium that works for you. Work it, work it, work it. And that's why I want to say now, having said all of that, we just don't want to leave you or have you leave this episode and unplug that earbud from your ears and not do something. So, Bill, I mean, I'm telling you, man, I can't be stronger in asking you as you're listening to do something. So, Bill, what might be a good way to, or a good thing to kind of impress upon our audience as to what they could do as a result of this episode?
It's that simple. Action is always the answer. So you should go to Meetup.com and choose an event. And something that interests you, it's your specialty, something that you really want to learn more about. Find out when they're meeting and schedule yourself to attend. That's the quickest way. Just go pick something and go do it.
And I like what you said, Bill, is not just only pick something, but schedule to attend. I like that because it's what gets, measured gets managed. And if you don't schedule it, you're not going to do it.
Mm-hmm. And, it's pretty low risk kind of thing. You go to the meetup. If you didn't enjoy it, don't go again. But, you never know what you're going to find. If it's the right group, man, it can really change things. So we'd like to know what your experience is at these meetups when you do it. Let us know what you did, what you found, who you met. If it's a Facebook group or it's a meetup, but just share it with us. You can do that on our private Facebook group, and we'd love to hear what your experience is.
And I think I just want to again repeat something you said before. We talk a lot more about some of the very specific things, practical things that can happen at these events. So that's in episode 46. We'll have the link in the show notes so you can find that, because I think this call to action about choosing an event, but I think what to do there, I mean, we kind of outlined and went more in detail in that episode. So do that, share with us, because we want to know. And it would do me and Bill a great, it would just really make our day to know that as a result of this episode, you did something that was a game changer for you.
You couldn't have said it better, Kingsley. I love the change in dynamics when you do something like this and you go outside of your comfort zone and you meet people. I can't explain just how much, going to live events and to meetups it has changed my life in the last few years. Give it a try, guys. You'll love it. Trust me.
Boom. I like that. That's good. I like that. I like the finishing touch to that.
Okay.
That's cool.
We shall call that.
Yeah, I like the fact that you actually pulled up very, very smart. I think to pull up and really read some of what's happening in your area, and I did the same thing because I was, because it's give a demonstration right then and there of some the vast variety of events you could find so quickly. So that was really cool. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that one. What was it with the group Mere Mortals?